Thanks for coming back to another Grow Strong podcast. Today we are here with another one of our contestants from the Grow Strong Cup, Wesley Martin. You go by Wes, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so Wes Martin. His YouTube channel is Wes Martin TV, all in one word. Go ahead and go check it out, and you can see how he did in the Cup and his final results and all that good stuff. Thanks for joining us today, man.
Thanks for having me.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys?
Doing great. Happy to sit down with you.
Wes, where are you coming at us from today?
Where I sit right now is in Humboldt County, California.
Okay, just above us.
So I'm up on the coast in Humboldt, and it's actually sunny here today, which is surprising this time of year.
Right on. How long have you been in Humboldt?
Ooh, we bought this house in 2004, but I got here in 2000.
Okay, so you've been up there for a while.
Oh yeah,
up in the Emerald Triangle. Right on. Well, so let's start out so everybody can get to know you and just kind of go over your story, who you are, how you got into cannabis, and then eventually how you got into actual cannabis cultivation.
Oh wow. Okay.
Loaded question for sure.
I ended up in Humboldt County, very much like most of the people who end up in Humboldt County, hippie on the road from the East Coast. Literally, I was 19 years old. I had tried my hand at the military. It did not work out. I was on the road following bands, ended up in San Francisco when I found out about Reggae on the River. This was the year 2000. Yeah. I was 19 years old, and a guy said, "Hey, I'm headed up to Reggae. You want to come?" So I was like, "Sure. Why the hell not?" Went to Reggae. Met a girl. Ended up in Arcata, California, where they have Humboldt State University, and have not gone probably 30 miles away since then.
Nice. Where on the East Coast are you from?
So I'm originally from Manassas, Virginia, which is Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. Had a rough childhood, ended up homeless in D.C. around 15, 16 years old. Finished high school on my own, didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. So when I ended up in Humboldt and working in the hills, it was like a godsend. I was like, wow, people live like this? Look at all these plants. Oh, my God. It was complete culture shock, coming from the East Coast. It was a dog-eat-dog world, and it was a hard grind. And you end up in the hills of Garberville and, California, and you're just like, I had never seen, people like this before. You know what I mean? The farmers markets, just the community of it all, the great big giant pot leaf in the middle of town at the hemp center. It was, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Garberville, but
for sure.
The late 90s, early 2000s down there, it was the wild, wild west, man. Helicopters still flying above, and that's home. Where I landed.
I've arrived. Nice. I have a similar story. I'm from New Jersey, and I ended up going across the country at one point, camping out the whole way, and ended up in San Francisco. And here I am, just an hour north now.
And following bands. We all actually have the same story.
Same story.
What I tell people, 90% of the folks who end up here from anywhere else in the country, it's the same story. I followed an awesome band. They ended up in San Francisco, and you went north a little bit.
I have to ask what bands were you following? Because we had the same thing. Late '90s, early 2000s. That's all we did too, was follow bands. So,
I actually had the great privilege of seeing Jerry at Wilmer's Park in 1994 before he died. I was 13 years old. Wow. My mom took me to my first Grateful Dead concert. And since then, I got into it. I followed a punk rock band at 15 down to Florida, and then I called my parents for a train ticket back home. It was, at that point, I think it was a DJ. I want to say it was like DJ Aphrodite or something at the time, was doing a major rave in San Francisco. And I was like, there was no way I wasn't going to be there, and I think I Greyhound passed it. You can buy a Greyhound pass for like $200, and you can take short trips. for free all summer long on this Greyhound pass.
Yeah.
And I think I just connected the dots all the way across I went down to Tucson for a little bit, hit all the college towns, you know what I mean? And just did it all the way across and hit San Francisco, watched the show, and then was like, what am I going to do now? And they're like, reggae on the river, man.
Sweet.
Okay.
Right on.
Reggae it is.
Nice. So ended up in Garberville, obviously a huge outpost for cannabis growing. Like, how did you yourself get into it, or what were the first gardens that you kind of got involved with?
So I did not get really into gardening right away. I didn't have any idea how to grow a plant. I was coming from the East Coast. I had a lot of hustle. So I used to sit down in Garberville at the Chevron. We called it the Crack Mart. And we call it the Crack Mart because it was the only thing that was open at the crack of dawn when people from the East Coast were getting to Garberville. They didn't know when to stop. They didn't know when they were going to see gas. So they pull into Garberville. It's like 7 a.m., like literally the crack of dawn. The sun's just coming up, and they got New Jersey license plates. Hey, bro. Welcome to Garberville.
The welcome wagon.
Yeah, and so we that's how I got started. Hustled up a lot of money. I brought my first property up in the hills, and it's just back then it was all guerrilla stuff, putting bags up in the trees so that they couldn't tell the difference between the canopy and the pot, and anything that you can do to hide it. You know what I mean? Because even though medical marijuana had been legalized for 4 or 5 years at that point, Camp was still flying hard, and they didn't care. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like there was no metric, there's no track and trace system. It was really hard to prove that you were doing this all medically. So we would gather up giant thick books of everybody's scripts and have hand signed notaries, and like literally on a call list, if I needed to have 40 people show up on my property, in the next 20 minutes while the sheriffs were up here,
Yeah.
we were prepared.
Yeah.
But that's the way it was back in those early days. And then, I actually got tired of it, and around like 05 went to College of the Redwoods and got a culinary degree and opened up a bunch of bars and restaurants. Like most people who open bars and restaurants, I had my ass handed to me in the restaurant industry. That's just one of the hardest industries in the world to make a profit in.
Yeah.
And, did that for a couple of years, but, always end up back to the tried and true. You can always put, a bunch of plants in the ground. And, you know what I mean? Well, actually, you can't these days. You can't turn a profit by growing outdoor hardly at all.
Yeah.
Especially in Humboldt County these days. It's the market here is ragged.
And so a lot of your first gardens were obviously outdoor, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For probably the first 10 or 15 years, I did nothing but outdoor.
Yeah. So when did you migrate indoors?
In 2015, I went down to San Francisco, and I was working with an accelerator program called Gateway. And, they wanted me to look into the marketability of high-grade cannabis. And in the time of our early recreational years, you really saw an immediate divergence in the markets between Northern California and Southern California. Northern California market is that farm to table, sun grown, we want what's best for our bodies type, where the Southern California market is
diesel,
high potency, the most terpenes, and dabs.
Yeah.
So when you look at those two market shares and you want to be able to market to both of them, that's when I had to look into things like indoor growing, light deprivation systems, light support systems, which really, led to a good, relationship with me and Dr. Rob Flannery, one of my former partners that, we met at Gateway, picked his ear for a lot of years. I mean, he was the first guy to have a PhD in pot farming. It's not in pot farming. It's from UC Davis, but it's like this really specialized indoor horticultural for a specific bud forming plant. And I was just like, he'll give you the 9 if you ever get the opportunity to interview him. But, being able to pick his ear and like find out really what the plants need, the intake, the stomata use, all of that good stuff really got me going towards controlled environment agriculture.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much indoor, but light supplementation systems where you can still use the lumens from the sun, but you're controlling the photo period with supplemental lighting.
Yeah,
so
sure.
that's sort of where we're
mixed
moving.
like greenhouse type growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, that's quite a mentor to have early on. So when you first went indoors, what was the first indoor setup like? What were you growing with?
Gorilla Grow tents.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, yeah, I bought a Gorilla tent. It was the first tent, and then I was like, man, this is kind of expensive. Let me grab a couple of these more cheap ones, and then I never bought another cheap one again. I think it was the old black and green GH Hydro tent I grabbed because it was like $40 or something. I was like, yes. Yeah, no, that thing lasted maybe 6 months, and then I've had Gorilla Grow tents ever since.
Yeah, you get what you pay for sure. What
Exactly.
kind of lighting? LED lighting, or did you start out with HPS?
No, I started off with HPS, man.
Yeah.
Like, I was a Gavita guy. Yeah, for years and years and years. I mean, I didn't switch to LEDs until 2020, 2021. Wow. I was still using Gavita 1,000 watt. Or the XLs where you can pump them up to 12 if you do the, all the way up to 120%.
Yeah.
I was still using those things. I used to be a cultivation consultant for the Gershon Lehrman Group, and they had hooked me up with this thing with Hawthorne, and Hawthorne grilled me, about how bad their Gavita lights were, and I told them why I switched, right? And, then that company is now no longer existing, so I feel bad for ever talking to Hawthorne. But when I saw what could be done with LEDs designed in the proper layout with half as much wattage, pumping twice as much PPFD, yielding twice as much of anything that a high-pressure sodium could do, cool, and not, blasting the heat in my tent through the roof. I was like, that's what really sold me on it.
Yeah.
And I feel bad now that company's been bought out. But it makes way for you guys' much better lights.
Right. And then before we started the podcast, you had mentioned that you kind of took a crack at the legal cannabis market. Was that correct?
Yeah. I've had 3 or 4 different companies in the cannabis market at this point. I used to have a investment in a farm out in Trinity County. Unfortunately, Trinity County was sued by an environmental group because they issued licenses before performing an environmental impact report. This lawsuit went on for almost 3 years, so we hadn't had a harvest since 2019.
Oh, wow.
In an attempt to get renewed. And we kept everything going for as long as we could. And then in 2022, we finally just had to shut up shop and start looking towards other ventures. So, yeah, West Martin Cannabis is no more. I had a pre-roll brand. We were doing great in the Bay Area. We were really, really pumping in East Oakland. And it was.
How many years did you operate before that whole litigation got in the way?
So I was one of the first distributors licensed in Humboldt County back in 2015. And then I sold that distribution company and then put the money into the farm around 2018. So we were only in operation as a licensed farm for 2 seasons, 2018 and 2019. And then we couldn't get renewed because of the lawsuit.
That's right.
So, it was 2 years of hard pumping and hard selling, and then hands in the air, like, what the actual? And my distributor came to me and said, hey, we're not going to be able to distribute for you anymore. And
wow.
Do you know how many other companies fell as a result of that lawsuit in Trinity County? Probably.
It was 8 major farms that could no longer get licensed. Wow. And because of the monetary loss, they had to fire a bunch of county employees. So now the time period of just getting a license renewed could be a year.
Huh.
Is that lawsuit still going on, or did it finally get closure? What was the end result?
Oh no, the county lost. They had to perform an environmental impact report for all of Trinity County before they issued any renewals, They found that the 8 farms that were listed in the lawsuit were actually within a 100-year floodplain and should have never been legally licensed to begin with. We didn't know that. We were literally the last farm on the road. So like going down the street, I can understand because it gets lower down towards Big Creek. But where I'm at, I'm literally right on the side of Highway 3. You got to be flipping kidding me. But we're directly behind the Veterans Building. So I think that was political. Mm-hmm. I think it was me and everybody behind me, even though I wasn't, technically in the floodplain, they extended it to include me and everyone down Big Creek Road.
Did the city offer any, or the county offer any sort of recompense to the growers they issued the licenses for?
No.
I guess I already knew the answer to that question, but that's a bad hand to get dealt. I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah.
All right. So taking a step back from the actual growing of cannabis, like how did you get into cannabis just in general? Smoking it, was it always a recreational thing for you? Was there any other like meaning
until my son was born? So my son has lupus, and we found out when he was 12 that he has lupus, and he has had a medical marijuana recommendation ever since. I decided early on that I wasn't going to put him through any of the chemo pills or any of the harsh treatments that he wanted to go through. And because of that, he did experience 2 major attacks earlier on in life. He went from being a 128-pound football player his 8th grade year to a 78-pound, very, very sick individual. But we were able to treat him, and he has had it under control now for a long time. He's fully recovered. He's 19 years old and off to college. So,
wow.
But yeah, that was what really stuck it in my mind that, I'll probably grow marijuana for the rest of my life, and I need to get good at it. So,
wow, that's a killer story. I mean, do you mind sharing? Like, I mean, when he was using cannabis for that condition, what were you using? Like edibles or oils?
Oh, it's always been oils. So
ROS,
we went to a Dr. Diane Dickinson, who was the head CBD and head THC doctor in our area up here. She had done a lot of research with the O'Shaughnessy group and the Dr. Milton and all those guys. So she really knew her stuff, and she had him on, I think it was 1.8 milligrams of it was I can't remember. It was almost 2 grams of oil a day, mixed between THC containing oil and CBD containing Rick Simpson oil.
Yeah.
So I want to say it was 1.2 gram squirt of the black CBD, and then almost 1/8 of a gram of the THC, the distillate oil a day. And that controlled it early on, but then, he gets 16, 17 years old. He just wants to take dabs.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
He's been sucking down dabs for the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, that's a pretty killer story. That's great to hear that it was able to be used to help that, and brought more something that had been recreational to you finally brought like greater meaning to your family. That's pretty rad.
Yeah. For something that I thought, hey, this was great, but it was always just in the background. It really brought it to like the forefront. You know what I mean? Like I had gotten tired of growing weed. I'm going to go be in a restaurant industry,
Yeah.
And then when I found out my son had lupus, I was like, oh, well, yes, screw the restaurant industry. I'm going to have to grow weed for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because I have to take care of my son. I was just, this is the decision. This is the route we're going.
Yeah, that's great. Right on. So I guess let's get into a little bit of the GSI grow off, and I kind of want to get your reaction when you submitted the video and finally got picked to be in this grow off. What was the reaction to that?
The initial was really. I was like, wait, no. I had to go back to it a couple of times and read over the email. I was like, all right. Cool, because I had never thought about doing a grow off or anything ever before.
Had you ever been in any competitions, like with the legal weed farm or anything? You didn't know cups,
no nothing? Competition that I have ever done.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and then I thought, I was like, yeah, this awesome. I can't believe this is happening. Like I was complete elation. When I first read the email that I was chosen and we were going to be getting all this equipment to use, and then my second thought was like, where am I going to put all this equipment?
Details.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
And so what was the first impression when you did get all that equipment and you kind of started opening it up? I mean, I know that you had already been growing with Gorilla Grow Tents previously, so that there was no big surprise there. You knew what you were getting into. But like when you opened up like the Kind LED and first hung that thing up and started growing with it, like what were your impressions in comparison to what you had seen from other LED companies?
That thing's a beast.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing's a beast. It's sturdy. It goes up easy. Like I was really, really impressed. And I mean, what gets me the most is the bonus red IR UV frequency.
Mm-hmm.
I ever since I got that, I have dove headfirst into that. I've had 4 or 5 conversations with Dr. Rob. Talked to a couple of other people. I'm like, what is up with this whole thing of adding IR and UV light to the spectrum?
Yeah.
And everybody, you get 50-50. You get those guys who are like, well, there's no proven blah blah blah. Yeah, and this and that. And then you get the guys who are like, well, turn it on and you'll see the the results. So being able to turn one on and see the results was awesome.
Yeah.
But just the size of the gearbox you guys sent me, I had no idea. When Kid told me, yeah, we're gonna send you everything you need. I was like, okay, sure. But like really sent me everything I needed. I was just like, wow. Okay.
So you found a spot to put it all in.
Yeah. I figured it out. We moved some stuff, out in the garage, and we were able to get it in there perfectly.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear what your buddy had to say about those UV conversations. The reason why it's a 50-50 split is because not all strains act the same when they're exposed to UV light, right? I mean, there's a UVR8 protein in that plant that's basically kind of responsible for saying, hey, we've been exposed to UV light, kick off that secondary metabolite production. But not all strains react to it the same. And I think, through our testing, because we did some pretty extensive testing with UV, it seems like strains that are more on the sativa side of things don't have as much of an effect as strains that are on the indica side of things. And who knows if that could be like, equatorial, origin, closeness to the equator or whatever it might be, and the amount of sun that they're used to getting genetically from their, from their original, the places that they grow. So it's kind of all over the map because of that. So some strains you can put that UV on and you won't see too much difference. And some you put it on and it's like, oh my God, that changed the structure of that plant completely.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
After using it, which camper are you in on the UV?
I'm going to keep it up.
The second.
What's that?
I'm gonna keep it up forever. It's never coming down at this point.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen huge increases in both THC, total cannabinoids and terpenes. I mean, like crazy, like double terpene levels.
Well, even Dr. Rob has written something up and has a company backing him to do like big time testing at one of his 15,000 square foot facilities down in Palm Springs, so they can do total darkness versus other UV, and then inside of one of those his light supplemental systems where it's completely open to the sun down in Palm Springs, so you're getting that good sun, and then photo period controlled by the supplemental UV lights, so that he can play with it and write it up in his PhD fashion or whatever.
Right.
But he wants to know for sure. So he's doing experiments himself. You
Nice.
two would probably love to talk to each other.
Yeah. I need to
I'll
meet
be
this
more than
Dr.
happy to
Rob
put you in
guy for sure.
contact.
We'll talk about that
would be
later.
it would make a great video, honestly.
And so did you, you were under HPS, under those Gavitas, did you move to any LEDs before you grew with ours? You said you did, right? In 2021, 22?
Yeah, I moved to Lux, like everybody
Oh,
else did,
Lux,
and
yeah.
you know, what I mean, I was so impressed with Lux that, you know, I was one of the many consultants that touted them to Hawthorne. You know what I mean? And now they're gone, and I feel
Yeah,
bad because
gotcha.
all Hawthorne did is they bought them, they bastardized all of the research that they had done, which even at that point, Lux was doing research into color lights and the UV, you know, supplements, and you know what color spectrums for which, and like moving away from just the standard Samsung 301 dual, you know what I mean, that everybody has grown accustomed to. And, you know, they took that information, shut the damn company down, and has, from what I've seen, locked it away. You know what I mean? Hopefully they'll incorporate it into the Gavita LEDs and we'll see some of that research come about. But I don't know, man. They might just
it was a weird situation to see that shut down quickly.
And it was so instant.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some quality control issues that were happening within the company that maybe Hawthorne didn't do their due diligence on. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. So, I mean, in comparison to those Luxes, when you saw the kind LED, I mean, was it comparable, better? Was it where would you put it on the spectrum?
I put them side by side, and the kind LED it was definitely frostier weed.
Yeah.
100% frost. I got a second camera right here. I can put it up against some stuff. It's definitely frostier weed.
Nice.
Grown with the kind LED.
Oh, you were doing a comparison. You had them both growing.
Yeah, I had two tents going at the same time because I can't stop my main tent and grow. That's what I support my kid with.
Right.
So it keeps going constantly. So when you guys sent me the 2x4, I just cleared room in the garage so I could put it up next to it. And yeah, you know, it's not the same strain. I wish I had been smart enough to like cut enough clones or make clones of the Skywalker so that I could do the same strain next to each other. I mean, I was 6 weeks into it before I was like, dumbass. You should have did the same strain.
Well, the beautiful thing is there's always the next grow, right? So
yeah, exactly.
There's still time.
So you were doing the Skywalker OG. It's so crazy to watch everybody's videos and to see how different their plants end up looking. You know, and that could just be because you guys all started from seed, right? So it could just be different phenos or whatever. But I mean, I think it's just like environmental, habits that you use for when you water and everything else can just like make completely different plant structures. You know, so when you watch everybody's video, it's like, wow, that's the same strain as that one. Like
I noticed that as well.
Pretty
a lot
crazy.
Of people had some extremely squat plants.
Yeah, but I mean, that could be training. That could be flipping them into flower when they're still young. I mean, I don't know, but it's like it's pretty crazy because everybody's...
The stretch that I got underneath that kind LED. I mean, even at 100% it was crazy.
Family trees
and that's
had
what
the
you would
same
normally
thing.
get
I
from
mean,
a
his
sativa
is super
dominant
tall.
OG plant like Skywalker is you would get that stretch.
Yeah.
And then when I saw those phenotypes of those plants that some people had that didn't stretch, I was just like, ooh.
Yeah.
I think
one of those
a couple
guys,
other
man,
strains
that
did
really...
work their way into some of the tents.
You say what?
I think some other strains did work their way into some of the tents. Mostly everybody had the Skywalker, but I think there was there was a contestant or two that had another strain. Or two.
I mean, I look at,
Disqualified.
Yeah. No.
Okay, I
What did you do,
I was going
Wes?
to blame it all on the seed. Personally, because you see that these days. You get seed breeders that, are hurried to go to market. They drop F2s, and F2s are so full of recessive genes.
Oh, it can go one way or the other. Yeah,
exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, look at Family Trees. I mean, if you look at his garden, I mean, that looked like a full-on sativa. I mean, the thing was tall and big, like almost kind of like diesel-y looking flowers. I mean, it was night and day compared to some of the other grows.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. And then when I look at Frankie's buds, how light green and completely crystal covered that is.
Yeah.
I mean, when I look at something like that, I'm thinking green crack.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Not an OG cross, but I mean, beautiful weed from her grow. Anyway, I was just highly impressed. I was highly impressed.
Yeah. I thought everybody did a great job. I was surprised on how well everybody did. You know, I mean, I guess like entering a grow cup, you'd know something about growing, you know, and you'd be good at it. But it was really cool to see that everybody was not only great growers, but like also super cool stories behind everybody. You guys were all cool with each other, which was super cool to see. You know, I mean, it was a killer contest, you know, through and through. Let's talk about nutrients a little bit. What were you using before this cup? Like, what was your main nutrient brand that you used to rely on?
So I always end up going back to Botanicare, but I've used everything. I've used Athena. My wife works for the USDA, so when it comes to the outdoor fields, she'll just go and get raw ammonium nitrate and potassium phosphorus, and we'll till in yards, you know, of fertilizer into the field, you know, before we mound and crop. But inside, you know, it had always, like, Athena was the first dry fertilizer I used. And then using you guys' Lotus, I mean, I fucked up pretty bad in the initial beginnings. You know, using too much and then using not enough. But, you know, I eventually, you know, worked things out and was able, I figured out that making it into a slurry and letting it come to room temperature before, you know, using, you know, any kind of RO water and CalMag and everything worked out to be a lot better for me, especially in the soilless medium that I was using. So,
give me your thoughts on how Lotus ended up comparing to. I mean, Athena's a great yardstick since it's a powdered nutrient, but I mean, how did those two compare? We want your honest feedback.
Well, with the Lotus, like, once I got it under control with like how much to put into the scoop, like how hard to compact, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It worked fine. The Athena dissolves thinner and like cleaner, but I didn't see any major differences. You see what I'm saying? When it came to the way like the plants would metabolize the two different powdered fertilizers, it didn't look any different to me. What I saw the differences was in the photo period of the two fertilizers. Like the veg timing on the Skywalker plants under the LED with the Lotus was a lot faster and a lot hardier of a structure than with the Athena under the Lux. Like the plants vegged quicker, they vegged with a thicker, you know, a better stalk. And I don't know if I can attend that to the Lotus nutrients or to the Kind LED, but in the two together where I had them, you could definitely see the difference in how fast the plants matured into being ready to flower.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Nice.
And then as far as going into flower and final product, I mean, was one superior to the other?
Well, moving into the final stages of flower, I kicked on that UV.
Yeah.
And when I kicked on that UV, there was a definite boost in trichome production. Like it was almost immediate.
It could have been from the UV, it could have been from the lights, you know, but I mean, a lot of that could have come from Lotus too. I mean, compared to an Athena blend, I mean, it's just, Athena's a pretty simple blend, and that's why it's like what you're saying is it dissolves thinner or cleaner, right? Because there's not as much there. And so it's real simple nutrient base. As where ours has a lot of different ingredients in it. It's a lot more complex, which is where you kind of get that consistency of that kinetic sand. The
sandier.
Yeah, and so that's kind of interesting. I mean, I would like to almost maybe, if you'd be willing to, do a side-by-side comparison in both tents where you use Athena on half of the plants in the Kind tent and the Lux tent, and then Lotus on half and half, to take out the variable of the lighting and see like what was actually driving that. Be super interesting.
Really? Well, I have an empty 4x8 gorilla tent that I am spraying clean this weekend. So.
Well, we'll talk after this interview. I'd love to see that comparison. You know, because like you're right. The variable could have been the light. It could have been the Lotus. I'm going to say it's both, just because they're my products. And
It's
I'm
a combination.
biased towards it,
It's just a winning combination.
But it would be cool to see a side by side, and it's like a non-biased side by side, right? I mean, like when we do side by sides, everybody calls us out for like cheating or something, you know, which we don't. But it would be cool to get somebody like you to do one of those too, so that everybody can see what the quality difference is.
Yeah, man, I'd love to do it.
Sweet. Right on.
Honestly, I really would. So no problem. I'm going to be here in Humboldt County a lot more moving forward, and that was one of the things that I felt bad with this competition. I found out about this competition literally days before I was tapped to be the director of High Rollers Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So during this entire competition, I'm flying to Vegas once a month for weeks at a time to go down and direct this show for Pluto TV, and didn't really have the ability to give the love and attention to this grow competition that I should have, especially with making the videos. You know, I started off doing daily videos, and that was awesome through the veg period. But then when I was, writing, producing, and directing, and having to fly to Vegas every month to do it, it got to be a little overwhelming. So I would definitely like to touch base with you guys and give you some videos that I wanted to make before, but didn't really have the time to.
Deal.
Yeah, done. Who took care of your plants while you were away in Vegas? Because, I mean, you still got respectable results out of the thing. So, I mean, who was tending to them while you were gone?
Fortunately for me, my wife is the lead planner for NRCS with the USDA for all of Area 1, which is basically San Francisco North. So I leave her a feeding schedule, and she knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah. Nice.
Have you gotten your son involved in the garden at all? Now that he's
he's been next to me since he was 13 years old, and I walked him into Diane Dickinson's office, and she wrote him his first medical marijuana recommendation.
Yeah, and so he's been helping out in the garden and helping take care of the plants and everything.
Well, I mean, he's 19 right now. You know what he's doing. Not hanging out with dad in the garden, but
still trying to instill it for a later time.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can find joy, even if they're as distracted as a 19-year-old, in like the joy of growing what they're actually consuming.
I tell him, I was like, you can go to the clubs and you can get all that stuff, but it's you're never gonna get the feeling of smoking your own bud.
Yeah,
like
100%.
You smoking your own bud is always gonna taste better than anything that you have to pay money on.
Yeah.
It just and everybody knows it. Is like, I created this, and it cost me pennies on the dollar.
Yeah. Sweet. So getting into kind of the fruits of your labor for this contest, how much did you end up harvesting out of that 2x4 tent?
See, I wish I could have made you guys a better harvest video than I did. We ended up getting 274 grams. So it's about 9.5, 10 ounces out of the 2x4 tent.
Okay.
And that's after I put an extreme trim on it.
Right.
I was looking at some of the people's buds like, they just kind of mowed it down a little bit.
Got to keep as much weight on there as we can for this contest.
Buds at all.
Nice.
All right, it's a respectable poll. Do you think if you your next round, you think you'll be able to beat that number, huh?
Well, I mean, I didn't really put any kind of super cropping into it at all. I just let the plants grow. I didn't do anything. I put 2 layers of trellis just to support the buds as they grew. But if I actually put a little bit more heart and soul into it, we could have definitely done, a little bit better than we did.
Yeah, I mean, you had a really nice even canopy with, good flower size in there, but it looked like it could be way fuller edge to edge,
Yeah, I think I took out too many of the lower branches earlier on because I didn't know how bad of a stretch I was going to get.
Yeah.
And I left the screen a little too empty.
Yeah, right on. Well, we'll check in on your next harvest and see how much you increased that weight by. Yeah, I mean, it sounded like you were busy through the contest. I was going to ask you, did you keep up with or interact with any of the other contestants at all?
I checked on all of them at least once through the course of the grow up, and then a few of us would comment on each other's posts a lot.
Yeah.
The Frankie Beans.
Yeah, Beans
and the Gold Tooth Gang kid, and that Wow Arizona guy.
Yeah.
And then Beans the Blaze, and then Frankie was the chick. She really good for only ending up with 2 plants. Like, I don't know what happened. I got to go back and like read her story. Like, with all the seeds, like even with me, you know, I mean, I only had 6 of my seeds germinate, but like I hope that, you know, she didn't really just get stuck with only 2 plants. That's like getting dealt a bad hand to begin with.
Right.
That's good.
But
she made the most out of what she had. It looked like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the quality was through the roof.
Quality was through the roof. Yep.
Yeah, I know that was super cool to see that people were like commenting on everybody's videos, and it seemed like a community more than like a contest, which was super cool to see. All right, so if you win this grow off,
I'll be completely amazed.
If you are the one that's chosen, you'll be completely amazed. And what would you do with the prize money from winning this contest?
Buy more grow equipment.
Seems to be the going answer.
Yeah, that's what everybody said.
Like, no doubt about it. There's a couple of things that I definitely want to get my hands on moving forward. So
you were scraping for room for the 2x4. I mean, is there now like room to continue?
Oh, we've moved the cars out of the garage. They're gonna have to live in the driveway from now on.
So you're looking for a 10x20 gorilla tent, is what you're saying.
Shoot for the moon.
Well, I gotta have room for cameras.
Okay, 10x10.
So
Gotcha.
that is one thing that moving forward we're going to be doing a lot more of. I'm going to be going to Vegas less and making more content both on Twitch and here in Humboldt County. That was my whole point in going to film school to begin with, is so that I can promote small family farms from here. And where I'm at in Northern California, where the heart of this sort of community started.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody was really, really scared that big cannabis was going to put people out of business. And now that big cannabis is putting people out of business, we have to do whatever we can to support our small, local, organic, all natural farmers.
Yeah.
Here.
100%. And it's unfortunate because it's like, what's going to happen is big cannabis is going to come in. They're going to put everybody out of business. But then everybody's going to realize how shitty big cannabis is. And they're going to come back around to all these small craft farmers. I mean, it's already starting to happen to a point. But it's unfortunate that some of these people that have been in it for a really, really long time and have been growing great medicine for a really long time are going to be some of the people that go out of business because of it, So it's almost like I wish it could just hurry up and cycle itself so we could get to the point where people are like, yeah, screw these big cannabis guys. Their product sucks. I'm going to continue buying from the small.
Big cannabis
grower.
is Budweiser. You want Lagunitas.
Exactly.
Well, Lagunitas is now
Heineken.
When I had my pre-roll brand out, I actually billed myself as the Pappy Van Winkle of the cannabis industry. I want to be top
and you're
shelf.
paying for it.
Exactly.
Nice. Right on. If you had to pick a winner out of the group other than yourself, who would it be?
I heard you ask Beans that the other day, so I was checking them out, and I actually have the list here next to me, and I was looking at everybody's just earlier today.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Frankie, it really impressed me for the quality of her weed.
Mm-hmm.
And then, 2 guys really, really impressed me just overall for the amount of effort that they put into it. And that was that Gold Tooth Gang guy and the Wow Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably be a coin flip between those 2, Gold Tooth Gang and Wow Arizona.
Nice, right on. I think we do both those. Next week, right?
Both of them are early next week.
Yeah. The Arizona guy. I mean, they're both great. I mean, we had so many great people in this contest. It's really hard to pick anybody who did better than the other. It's gonna be a tough one to pick a winner out of. But
I enjoyed everybody's videos. It was great to watch the whole thing unfold. So,
and honestly,
And
it would
both
have
of
been
them
great
getting
had
over
we
a
been able
pound?
to fly everybody into the same spot with a huge bag of the weed that you guys grew and have a true proper judging at a round table. That would have that's
still time.
That's the next grow contest.
next round.
That's the next grow.
Oh, it's gonna have to be the next grow contest.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I may have. Yeah, I think this is what I got left out of the harvest.
How was the smoke?
Oh, phenomenal. So we don't even really smoke much flour around here. We press it all into rosin, and the yield from that SV or that Skywalker OG was through the roof. I mean, I'm pressing nugs, getting a 22% comeback. Like we're throwing 16 grams in at a time, and I'm getting 3.5 grams of rosin back.
Dang.
I mean, it was unbelievable.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the terpene profile on that OG is through the roof. So it comes out really loose consistency. So I had to mix it with another strain that I grew that when you press it, it comes out auto batter. And then that way you get the consistency a little bit thicker, but with the terpene profile of that gas to knock you off your feet. So
Nice.
Nice.
Sounds awesome. Are you a flush kind of guy at all, or no flush?
I flush because I use salt-based fertilizers.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who's using any kind of liquid fertilizer or anything basically other than living soil, you probably should be flushing your plants for the last couple of days, even if it's only 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, a couple days.
Yeah.
I can agree with a couple days. I mean, people still kind of go overboard with this like week-long.
Oh yeah,
flush
this
and-
2-week stuff.
And now there's a lot of people out there that'll even argue with salts you don't need to flush. I don't know. It's an interesting topic. It's something that I want to keep in the discussion moving forward because it's pretty hotly contested right now.
Well, I see it all the time, man. Like I'll go and I'll dump the old soil. Even I use a soilless medium, I'm Pro Mix, and I'll dump it out, and there will be white salt deposits on the inside of my pots.
Sure. Yeah.
Why do you want that in your final product? You don't.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, there's argument that never makes it into the final product, right? That you don't have this reservoir of nutrients that everybody says that you're trying to get out of the plant matter, and a lot of people's argument towards it is that why would you want to starve the plant of the critical elements that it needs in the final bulking up process that usually happens in that last week? Like even robbing it of a few days of that is like bad, right? And
Oh no! I'll do a full 56 to 61 days with fertilizer, and then give it an extra 4 days of water
past what it's time
past
is,
what you would normally do. Just because one, I like my trichomes to be a little bit more
Amber.
on the auburn side, than on the milky side, and because I want that last thickening up.
Yeah.
We used to tell people in Humboldt County when you're growing outdoors, like when you think it's ready, give it another week.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
That goes for all growers, right? Everybody's antsy to cut it down. But yeah, I mean, when you're looking for those trichomes to turn amber, that's easier to do what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people want them in that milky phase. And it's like, the point at which that plant stops putting on bulk and those turn milky is like it's a quick time frame, So it's like that's why they say don't rob it in that little bit. I mean, you kind of alluded to it. The grow is going to get bigger. You've got the garage now. So what are your plans for the future? And are you going to continue on with the YouTube channel just for us, or what's the plan there?
Well, so I guess with the Twitch and YouTube stuff, I do intend to do a lot more online content creation. But I have personally gotten really, really sick and tired of all of the BS breeders out there dropping F2s at, $350 a 10-pack or ridiculous amounts of money for seeds.
Crazy.
So we're going to be doing it ourselves.
Nice.
I've got 3 proprietary strains that I've done. One that we're doing right now is a ice cream cake by GMO. that we're going to pheno hunt and do a final selection on its. Hopefully, we'll find a couple unicorns in it, but we'll do the final selection for its its direction completely online on my Discord with as many and as much outside input as we can get.
Sweet.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of irons in the fire, so here's your chance to just shamelessly plug every single one of them. Where can people find you?
Okay, so I have a bunch of different YouTube channels that are going to be coming out. One is DocuStyle Television. It's free documentaries and reality TV. We basically, the tagline is, we're going to show you the world through the way we see it. And it's really looking at documentary TV through the eye of the filmmaker, not so much the eye of the audience. There's always a reason, something about every story that sparked the filmmaker's eye, and I want to be able to portray and focus on those stories. And then, we have a couple of different cannabis sites that are going to be up and running soon. One is the Weed Scene, the other is Ganja Getaways. Where we're going to be doing a tourism site, basically videos filmed at cannabis resorts across the world. So recently there's been a huge boom in cannabis tourism, not only here in Northern California, but in nations like Thailand, on the Jamaican Islands, all throughout the Caribbean, Guyana. There's just a lot of places that you can go these days, rent a weekend at a beautiful resort on the island, get spa treatment and smoke cannabis. So we are casting now for Ganja Getaways with the Discover Network.
Nice.
Where do I sign up?
Yeah.
Do I get to go walk the beach and smoke spliffs and talk about
Well,
people
that
enjoying
one, guys, well, I don't know. Hopefully, let's. When do you guys plan to release this? So let that deal happen before.
All right. Well,
before we drop the one about Ganja Getaways, because that one is registered. But yeah,
we can
but
edit in post
check
as you request. So I mean, we're probably looking to get all these posted in the next couple of weeks. So if you want us to pull anything before then, feel free to let us know.
Oh, I'm not really too worried about it. I've already talked to a distributor. If he's able to put us in contact with the people we need.
Nice.
Keep my fingers crossed. If not, and if you are into streaming television, and if any of my ideas sound good to you, definitely get in contact with me. wesmartintv@gmail.com.
Awesome. I love it. Would also love to get my hands on some of those seeds that you featured there.
Yeah, when you pull the unicorn, hook us up.
Yeah.
I actually do plan on doing a community breeding project for those F2s, that ice cream cake GMO. I was thinking like $4 a bean for tester beans.
Yeah.
I've already got an approved CBD sellers permit with Square, so we're gonna have them online hopefully by the end of the month.
Sweet.
Yeah, you can sell in all 50 states now with that.
And that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You can send seeds everywhere. It's
clones.
Yeah, and clones.
Seeds and clones are both under the Hemp Act. So yep. Ship away.
That's right. That's right. Through the post office, baby. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Who knew we'd ever be
I
here?
bought an induction sealer for Mylar bags. Everything has come in. I just got to really start here. I started shucking through and getting rid of all the holes and bad seeds. And we're going to be shipping hopefully by the end of February.
Awesome.
Nice. Right on. Sweet. Well, it was great talking to you today. Thanks for jumping on. Again, if anybody wants to go see his YouTube channel, or please go see his YouTube channel, it is Wes Martin TV, all one word. You can check out not only his grow for the grow off there, but he's got some other random videos up, including video game.
You can see him kick the crap out of
Mike Tyson
bald
punch out.
bull. Yeah.
And
Mr. Dream.
Yeah, it was. I mean, thanks for being in the contest. Thanks for doing this interview today. It was great talking with you, and hopefully we'll be doing a lot in the future together.
Great having you in the competition. Appreciate your time. Good talking to you, man.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.